Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Gregory G Wright, coach and producer with over 25 years in the music industry, host of Behind the Mic Live podcast. Welcome to the show, G.
Thank you, AJ. How are you doing tonight, this
I'm
morning?
doing very well. Good morning. Good morning to you from India, and I'm sure
Yes,
it is nighttime 11:30 around in the US if I
yes, yes,
understand correctly.
yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. Gregory, and I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll
Mhm.
learn from you about how one can master stage presence like a rock star. We'll learn all that from you. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
I am Gregory. Everyone calls me G, and I am a Rockstar speakers coach. I was a tour manager and live sound engineer for over 25 years, worked in the music industry with just amazing artists like Coldplay, Aretha Franklin, Jonas Brothers, just to name a few. And I got my start in radio when I was 16. And I was at the time one of the youngest radio DJs in the US on a top 40 radio station. So I was going down this path of where I was going to follow in the hero of my Casey Kasem, one of my heroes growing up. And then when I was 18, I was out on a USO type tour, touring around veterans hospitals. And I ended up sneaking into a Whitney Houston concert and meeting her tour manager and her sound engineer and watching the show at front of house. And as soon as he put the headphones on me and I heard Whitney's vocals in my ears, I said, this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to put radio on the back burner and I'll just go out and tour with bands. And that began the 25-year journey. And now, as you said, I'm the host of Behind the Mic Live on LinkedIn. So it's kind of come full circle of now I feel like I'm back in the radio element. And today what I do is I show coaches and visionaries and thought leaders how to use the same techniques your favorite rock stars use when they go on stage, every time you go on stage, on a podcast, or on video.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll learn all these tricks of the trade from you, Gregory, and I'm sure a lot of people will learn from this. But first, what is the most important thing to be for a speaker? Is it about his stage presence? Is it about his message? Is it about his rock star presence? Or is it about his signature sound? What is it? First, let's understand from you as someone who teaches a lot of people.
I would say the first thing is mindset. It all starts with the mindset and visualization. You've got to remember your favorite rock stars rehearse in a sound stage, which is empty and has no fans in it for weeks and months and even, years of playing out in small clubs and things to get that show together. So I think preparation is key before you go in the public and speak. And I think another thing is really to visualize your success before it happens. So see yourself walking on stage, see yourself having a great show, the audience loving what you're talking about long before it ever happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. But how does can't it be that you visualize too much and never actualize it? Many people do it like that.
You have to take action. You have to take action. Yes. I mean, it surprises a lot of people to know that your favorite rock stars and pop stars off stage are actually very quiet and shy and even a little bit insecure. They would walk up to me after the show. What'd you think of the show, G? I'm like, nice one. It was great. The crowd loved you, so it really comes down to getting in the mindset visualizing it, but then you have to take action. And when I say show, AJ, I'm referring to anytime you go on camera, if you go on a podcast, or if you go on an actual stage, or even on a Zoom, meeting or something. To me, that's a show. So the more shows you do, the better you get at it. So it really is that first step of taking action and going out there. And that can start with just doing a minute and a half video on LinkedIn, introducing yourself to your network.
Absolutely, absolutely. G, let's understand it from the ground. What do these, coaches, visionaries, thought leaders, what
Mm-hmm.
is it that they come to you for? What are the problems that they face? Because if they are coaches, they are visionaries, they have already reached somewhere in life. And still, if they need some sort of a guidance from you, that must be very specific that they need help from you on.
A lot of people, one of the exercises I do in the very first week of my 5-week program is a time machine exercise, because I believe anytime we let fear or self-doubt or imposter syndrome get in the way, we are physically going into our subconscious, into the time machine, back to something that happened in the past. It could have been in primary or secondary or university. You had to get up and give a speech or something, and somebody laughed at you, and you bring that into the present. So the first thing we do is go into the future and identify what do they want to accomplish. And I'd say the number one thing a lot of people have is this, not a fear of public speaking, because I work with a lot of clients that are fine when they're on stage. They just, confidence. Confidence is key. So I think if we can go and remove the fear, the self-doubt, and the imposter syndrome, and replace that with that rock star level confidence, that, you feel so good when you go on camera that it doesn't matter what happened in the past. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
G. So let's understand this rock star confidence. What
Okay.
is this? Okay, one will know that, okay, it's about rock stars, but let's understand the rock star confidence. And at the same time, today's time is people say that, you need to be vulnerable so that others can also identify with you. You need to
Mhm.
be authentic. How do
Yes.
you calibrate both these things together at the same time as a speaker, anywhere it is, online, offline, wherever it is, on Zoom or on real stage?
One thing that I've seen over my 25 years in 35 different countries and 5,000 different shows is that when it's time to go on stage, they flip a switch. Whatever is happening in their personal life just goes on pause, right? If they had a fight with somebody in the band, the management, record label, their girlfriend, partner, whatever, it doesn't matter. You go into what we call show mode, right? And when you're in show mode and you're presenting at the rock star frequency, nothing can touch you. Okay, so that really helps with the confidence. First, we got to get rid of all the negative energy and self doubt, then replace it with confidence. And what it is when you're presenting to an audience, I believe it does not matter how big or small the audience is. You present to 10 people like it's 10,000, and 10,000 like it's 10. So that really goes into what you're saying about bringing out that authenticity. If people would stop focusing on how many people are in the room or how many people are listening or where this video is going to go, and just have that one-on-one conversation, just like we're having today, just like you have with your partner or your best mate at a coffee shop, a cafe, you go in with that level of uh, confidence and clarity in what you're talking about, you're really going to connect with your audience, because they're tired of perfection, and and perfection is a perception. We know that. So we try to focus not on it being perfect or being scripted, more in a conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I totally agree with you, Gregory. Many people want to be perfect. Even in podcasts, several of my guests I have seen, they want to be perfect. They want to have a perfect setting. They want to move the cat and the dog out of the situation. My thing is, don't do that. It is like
Right.
a friend visiting your house. You are letting me through this camera into your drawing room. It is not
Right.
good for me that I ask all the inhabitants around them to move out of the drawing room because I am coming. Then I am an outsider. You don't let a you don't let a friend do that, isn't it,
Yes.
Gregory? In the
Yes.
same way,
Yes.
so
Exactly.
I want to be in your drawing room the way any other friend would come. And in that way, that is where authenticity is. So sometimes a dog may shout a bit, but he's not creating problems. We have enough equipment in today's time to to ensure that then let it be natural. Let it be like until unless it is disturbing the very audience that you are creating for. We are not on those tight-lipped shows and very
Right.
specials are where you need to
Right.
be in that. And even those people 2 years back, if I remember, one of the top news channels on the world, their top director said to their own journalists, listen, you don't need to be like you are in your corporate life. Look like journalists, because you should look like journalists. Like, people should be able
Hmm.
to identify. And as you said, you don't need to look perfect. You just need to be yourself like you are in it. But in terms of talking about, many people have this whole perception about that I do not have that special thing in me. I have that expertise, but I do not know how to put that expertise in front, because it needs a special sort of a thing. So one is about finding my own voice, and you talk about creating your signature sound. Are these two different things? Are these the same thing? Help us understand,
Hmm.
how do I find these things in myself, even if I know, okay, I know about things, but I don't have these things. Maybe people expect a performance, and I'm not a performer.
I think, like, when I think of finding your voice and having your signature sound, over here in the States, we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day last week, and that is somebody who has had, may he rest in peace, a voice that as soon as he speaks, no matter what he says, it's him. Another example would be like Obama or Oprah. You don't even have to be in the room or see them on camera. As soon as you hear Oprah's voice or Obama's voice or many of, great public speakers, by the tone of their voice, by the tempo, by the cadence, they could literally, read a menu. It doesn't have to be the most prolific thing that they're saying. They could just have a conversation, right? But there's a tonality, there's a confidence to their voice. And that's what I mean by signature sound, is that, yes, I teach you the vocal dynamics and tempo, cadence, and power three and all that. But it's like when you are really confident and feel, why you do what you do. That's the number one, right? And then just going on camera is just another way to get your message out. I like to think of every time you go on camera as equivalent to if you were to walk into a convention center and there's 1,000 people there, and you went and walked up and shook everybody's hand and did your elevator pitch and everything. How many people can you meet in 90 seconds? Not many, right? But as soon as you walk on stage and you present your show, those people now know who you are. Well, that's the power of being on video, on LinkedIn, on IG, on different social media channels. 90 seconds of you just being who you are, talking about the challenges that you've overcome, talk about the clients that you work with, talk about the success stories you have, that now people can see and hear. And then, that's what I work with the clients with, that tone of voice and that excitement. And one of my methods is to ditch the script. I don't believe in worrying about if you say or pause too long, because in a conversation, that's just normal, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Gregory, let's learn from you directly from your thing. Let's look at three places. One is a
Okay.
stage. How do
Okay.
you prepare when you are on going for a stage? Say you got an invitation. That
Hmm.
invitation is for a week later. How would you prepare for that? Secondly, how do
Okay.
you prepare for going for a podcast? How do you prepare for this particular podcast? So that there are a lot of podcast guests who want to be on podcast, and they want to
Hmm.
make the right sort of preparation. They can learn from you. And the third is, when you go for your own show, solo show, if I understand, behind the mic, live on LinkedIn, how do you do for that? How do you, so that in three situations, it is almost like some sort of a course that people will get
Yes.
through in these three different stages from you, Gregory.
The first thing I do before every show is I create a set list of stories. It is not a script word for word. It's just a set list of stories. And it's one sheet of paper. And if you're going on stage, it could literally be like a card with just some stories on it, maybe some keywords or something. So, have a set list, just like the bands do and the artists have their songs written down. So that way you have material that you know so well that you're never going to share the same story twice in the same way. You're just not, right? So if you memorize a script and you're focused on that, it's going to show. Number two is I always do research, on who you're talking to and what kind of tone of voice do you want for that show. If you're walking on stage and this crowd is all about energy, and you walk on stage and you're very quiet, that could actually work to your advantage, though. You know what I mean? Like, visualize that show that you want to present. And then, believe it or not, number three is have fun. If you go on stage or you go on a podcast or even on video and you're having a blast, you're having a great time, people are going to see that. They're going to see the nonverbal, signals that we put out and body language and all that. And they're going to connect with you, because when you're talking about your business and you light up and it's just like, oh my God, I want to work with that person. So I use the same type of preparation. It doesn't matter to me if you're going on stage or on a podcast or on video. I look at it as a show, and you create your pre-show routine. You create your pre-production rehearsal routine. And once you have that, then you plug in the different variables.
Would you prepare differently for a podcast?
Yeah, well, podcast is just, we're talking one-on-one right here. And I think that's the best. I think the best thing people can do to prepare for a podcast, if this is your very, very first podcast that you're going on and you don't want to be worried about, oh, what am I going to say? Interview with a friend or your partner. Go on Zoom in two different places. Don't do it on the same camera. Set up your camera, your mic, and have your friend interview you if you don't know the questions in advance, and do like a 30-minute interview. Play it back and watch it and see what you notice. And don't focus on the ahs and ums as much, unless every other word is ah or then okay. But, because this is what the artists do. They rehearse their show. We would record it and then play it back, and then they'd watch it again and again and again. And that's long before they ever went on stage to perform. So you get your show together. Yeah.
Right, Gregory. How do you know whether you are? It was a nice show. What was it? A rock star performance, or was it a very
for your show? I just love your energy. I love your energy. This is you can just tell. You can tell even on a podcast where you don't have video. You can tell immediately when somebody's talking, if they're using a mic or what environment they're. I mean, as a sound engineer, I can tell all that. But when you hear the tone and the excitement in your voice, that is what draws people in. So you do want to listen to the shows, because maybe you're going on with a very mellow artist and host, and if you go in there with, hey guys, how's it going today? This is great, and they're like, today we're going to talk about marketing, and vice versa. If you go into a show that has a dynamic host like yourself, and okay, today I want to talk to you about public speaking. So you kind of have to match. You have to, and also just go with the intuition is what I say. If you hear a show or you get an opportunity for a show and you listen to it and you're like, could I sit down with you, AJ, at a cafe and have a vanilla latte and talk for hours? And the answer is probably yes. So then I want to be on your show. That's kind of what I look for when I'm being on shows. And same thing with the guests that I bring on my show. Can I sit down and have a cafe with them?
Absolutely. That is where I talked about, that as if I feel that someone is inviting me to their drawing rooms. And when
Yes.
they are inviting me, I should not only feel invited, I also want to feel that they are also engaged in that conversation. Rather than,
Yeah.
one step in, one step out, and I feel I've come to a wrong place. That is not how you treat a friend. That is not how you treat a guest. And in that same way, we are, friends also, and we are guests of each other. But in terms of,
Yes.
stage presence, here you
Okay.
can talk about energy. But if you are a solo speaker at a stage, how do
Okay.
you create that rock star performance when people are actually not in a concert, but you have to have a rock star performance? How do you know that? And also, how do you know whether you have succeeded without the people dancing on the floor?
Okay. So number one, you're having a conversation with that audience. You're having a conversation with them. They are responding to what you're saying. And as soon as you forget about focusing on the script and it being perfect and ahs and ums and standing on the carpet or whatever, and worrying about if your PowerPoint has the right font color and all that crap, in my opinion, right? And you just go on stage and you have a conversation with people. Now, maybe it's not verbal on their side because then it turns into a Q&A and that's different. But what I'm saying is, one of the techniques that I saw on the road and I teach my clients is I call it the ACL moment. ACLs stands for aircraft landing lights. They are those bright. That's what we used to call them. They're those bright white lights that we use. That the lead singer goes, "You sing," and the lighting designer hits one button, and the entire arena lights up. So these are questions that you can ask the audience where you get their participation, but you're not like asking for a Q&A. And it can, and also using the power of the pause, because you could say, if you're talking about financial, right? You're presenting P&Ls and KPIs and all the boring stuff, right? But you talk about climbing a mountain, right? And we're on this mountain and there's a big boulder about to destroy this company. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? This is what we did. You see, like or something, that's off the top of my head, but like something you ask the audience a question, a rhetorical question, essentially, but you get a response from them. And you also can do the pin drop moment, the mic drop moment, where it's so quiet in the room and you're having that conversation. So when you're on stage, you're having that back and forth. Just like we're having here, it's more of a one-on-one conversation. But if you look at your audience as just speaking to one person, your subconscious is really who it is, I believe. But you're speaking to that one person and having that conversation back and forth. Then the fear of how many people are in the crowd goes away, and the fact of if they like you or not goes away because they love you. They're fans of yours. If anybody is watching your video on LinkedIn or watching or listening to your podcast or sitting in front of you, in my mind, they are a client because they're paying with their time. And as we know, AJ, we cannot get back time. So if you walk into a room full of clients that love you, then you're just having a conversation with your fans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is why I start with the show, that this is the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts.
Yes.
I am the mediator,
Yes.
but experts are, who are bringing you a lot
Yes.
of value. That's a lot of value from you today, G. And I'm sure a lot of people must be getting value from your rock star speakers coaching. Tell us a bit about this. Who is this coaching for?
Okay, so I offer a 5-week intensive program. It's 5 90-minute one-on-one sessions with worksheets and everything. And we go from the start of the very first thing I do is a star review. It's kind of like a SWOT analysis and a time machine. We have to know where you want to go. And when we say in the time machine, this is where you're going, it's like we're going into the future. So whatever you say is confirmed, it's present tense. And then we start with building up the confidence, getting the signature sound together, getting your set list together, and getting you to ditch the script and stop worrying about ahs and ums and all that stuff. And then we get into the final 5 weeks. That's when I really bring in a lot of the techniques, because like I said before, you perform to the crowd and not through the crowd. There are techniques that your favorite rock stars use every time they go on stage. How many times have you been in a show, AJ, where you could swear the lead singer was singing right to you? That is a technique that they learn from their coaches and from years and years of working with them. I show them those techniques so you bring the audience up to your frequency, the rock star frequency. You don't have to go down to perform to them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, Gregory.
Yeah.
So a rock star is ready for, bouquets. A rock star is ready for cheers, dance. But what about brickbats? Do a rock star always get those, great cheer, or sometimes they there's those things called jeers also. And when
the
people
jeers?
are not, yes. How do you deal with that
Hmm.
if your last performance is not good? How do you deal? Should you stop speaking? Should you stop going on to, how do you? Because we are all not rock stars, though we want to give rock star performance. We are all humans, and not everyone is that strong. Should we look at a not so good performance if we think it is not?
Every show is a learning opportunity. And if you go on stage and you have a bad show, that's actually a good thing. Now you need to evaluate. What do you think? Because I had this with tons of artists. They thought they had a bad show. The audience loved it. And rule number 1 on that: never tell the audience anything that went wrong, or that, what you think you did wrong. I think we're our own worst critics, and we think we have a bad show because when we play it back, we notice the things that we're insecure about, right? But the audience isn't focused on that. Nobody cares what drum kit the drummer's playing in Coldplay, or what keyboard or guitar or microphone somebody's playing. They just love the music. So if you have a bad show, then do an evaluation of it and learn from it, and then go, okay, I tried that and that didn't work so well, so next time I'll try that. Try something different. But never give up, because your favorite rock stars, pop stars, actors, comedians, you name it, spent years and decades repeat again, until they figure out the formula, until they figure out that right joke, until they figure out that chorus that everybody wants to sing. And so the key to that is just keep going. Don't stop.
Absolutely. Just keep going. Don't stop. There is much to learn from you, Gregory, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn from you, about how to be a star performer through your rockstar speakers coaching, and also through your behind the mic level live thing. They can learn.
Yes.
So what's the best way for them to connect with you, G?
LinkedIn is the best way. If we're connected through LinkedIn or through a second connection or something, I'm on IG at G Wright Coaching, and my website is gwrightcoach.com.
Wonderful.
And anybody can send me a DM anytime. Yeah.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ. Ciao.